Hello, good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I wish to welcome you to this afternoon's Renewed Hope Global Virtual Town Hall Conference. Um, we still have a few more people in the waiting room, so maybe in about 2 or 3 minutes more, we will be starting the program in about 2 or 3 minutes more. Please bear with us because we still have a lot of people still waiting to come in. And we don't want to start the program behind anyone. We want to have as many people as possible into the program. So in the next 2 to 3 minutes, we will be starting. Thank you so very much for being part of this program. Thank you. Good afternoon once again, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is exactly 6 minutes past 3 here in the UK, and I believe it's 6 minutes past 4 in Nigeria. We are starting the program maybe just 6 minutes late, and apologies for that. It's just due to the fact that we have a lot of people in the waiting room. We still have some more coming in, but because we don't want to belabor our special guests, so we will be starting the program straight away now. My name is Joseph Kolaole Adebola. I'm going to be your chief host for today, and I wish to welcome you to this weekly conference. But before we get the conference off the ground, I wish to seek your indulgence for us to remain standing for a few minutes while we play our national anthem. Thank you very much. Thank you ever so much for that. It's much appreciated. And once again, I welcome you all to once again to the Renewed Hope Global Virtual Town Hall Conference. Today's conference is another special edition as we will be engaging with one of our leaders in this Renewed Hope administration, who is no other person than Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. He is the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. My co-hosts for today are Honorable Jacob Ogushaye, Haji Arikia Bello Abubakar, Udeme Ukwe, Sheung Bayewu, and Tosin Olayinka, who will be assisting me as usual in moderating today's conference to ensure a smooth and uninterrupted deliberation. This conference is streaming live across social media and especially on Ben TV, courtesy of the CEO of the first Nigerian African TV digital channel, Alistair Shode. Thank you so very much, sir, for your assistance always. Just looking through the conference today, I can see as usual we have new faces as well as the old faces, people who join us every week. Thank you so very much for being part of this program. You are the reasons why we keep doing what we're doing every week. And for as long as we have your support, we will continue to do what we're doing by adding value to the government of the day. Thank you so very much. Towards the end of the program, I will be acknowledging the presence of some of our stakeholders and leaders in the house. Thank you so very much. Like I said earlier on, we have in our midst today the VVIP for today's conference, who is Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. He is the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. And our topic for today is Tax Reforms 101, Enhancing Compliance expanding the base, and driving economic growth. This platform, as you already know, was set up as a veritable vehicle for interaction between Nigerians across the globe and our leaders in Nigeria. These are the people that hold the apron strings of our country and are steering the ship of our fatherland with a view to enlightening our people regarding the inner workings of the Renewed Hope administration. Today, as always, we will be exploring another segment of President Tinubu's vision and policies in an interactive interview with one of the big shots within the government, who will be dissecting President Tinubu's administration, shedding light on its significant achievements and forward-looking plans as encapsulated in the Renewed Hope agenda upon which the president campaigned, and we all gave him the mandate as well as the golden keys to Aso Villa on the 25th of February 2023. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'm pleased to announce to the House that our special guest of honor for today has joined the conference. He is no other person than Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, Chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. So, now to kickstart the conference, please permit me to read the profile of our special guest, because we need to know who our special guest is so that we can relate to him when he starts to speak to us. The profile of Mr. Taiwo Oyedele reads thus. He is the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, which President Bola Ahmed Tinubu established with a broad mandate to carry out critical reforms relating to fiscal governance, revenue transformation, and economic growth facilitation. Prior to his current role, Mr. Oyedele was the fiscal policy partner and Africa tax leader at PwC, where he worked for 22 years, including over 10 years in top leadership positions, gaining in-depth knowledge and diverse experience in areas ranging from tax advisory and policy advocacy to business strategy consulting, leadership development, and policy design and execution. Mr. Oyedele is an accountant and economist by training. He is also an author, keynote speaker, mentor, and commentator on finance, business, and economic matters. He was a thematic lead for the Fiscal Policy and Planning Commission and chairman of the West Africa Debt Management Roundtable of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, NESG, chairman of the Taxation and Fiscal Policy Faculty Board of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICANN, member of the Nigerian Taxation Standard Board of CITN, and a member of the Ministerial Committee on Design and Implementation of Nigeria's National Tax Policy. Mr. Oyedele is a fellow of the Nigerian Leadership Initiative, a member of the Global Tax Forum, and a former member of the Global Governing Council of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, ACCA. Your Excellency, sir, you are highly welcome to the Renewed Hope Global Virtual Town Hall Conference.
Thank you very much, sir, for welcoming me, and good day to all the participants. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you in our midst, sir. Thank you so very much for that. And once again, our main topic for today is Tax Reforms 101, enhancing compliance, expanding the base, and driving economic growth. So, as usual, I will be the one to fire the first salvo of questions. And my question, the first question always revolves around the theme of the day, which for today is going to be about Tax Reforms 101, enhancing compliance, expanding the base, and driving economic growth. Now, to my question. Given your expertise on today's subject matter, sir, and your pedigree as an orator of note, I know that whatever question I'm going to ask you will be met with a robust and elaborate answer. So I will try to keep the question very simple, because I know whichever we ask it, you're going to load us with loads of information. So, and I believe all of us are ready for that today. My question to you, sir, is what is the Tax Reform Bill 2024 all about? And what are its significance to Nigeria, its economy, and Nigerians? That's just my question.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. I think it's important to start with such a broad-based question so that we can set the proper context for this conversation and also for this reform by the current government. So the Nigeria's tax system, as it is today, essentially we inherited it from our colonial masters. And so which means some of the tax laws are older than many of us on this call, certainly older than myself. And the world has moved on since then. And so therefore, what we have today is no longer fit for purpose. It's not sufficient to enable our aspiration and development. So Mr. President, in his wisdom, set up the committee to help our country look at this important area of reform, but it's actually broader than tax. So it's fiscal policy and tax, which means there's also a lot of focus and reform measures around, revenue, around spending, around borrowing, as well as other issues around sustainable development goals and so on and so forth. But to your question about the tax reform bills, so essentially, when you think about the tax system, what comes to mind first is usually the tax laws. But really, you should start with policies. Policies are the ways that as a country, you frame what you want to do, where you want to go, the objectives you want to accomplish. Like Mr. President said, we don't want to tax seed, we want to wait for the fruit. We don't want to tax capital, we don't want to tax investment. And clearly, we don't want to tax poverty. We've done that for far too long. And there's not a single country in the whole world that has become wealthy by taxing poverty. It's a contradiction. So by setting those policy directions very clearly, then the next thing that comes in naturally is the legislation, because now you have the policy. Legislation is how you bring it into life through, legal framing. So that is what led to those 4 bills that are with the National Assembly. And we are glad to see the progress we are making with those bills. We believe we're closer now, certainly to the finish line than any time before now. And to have been able to do this in that short period of time, I think is remarkable. And a lot of the credit will go to Mr. President himself, who has been very consistent in saying that he does not want to negotiate the need for the reform. He's willing to negotiate the content. We can tweak the provisions here and there, but we shouldn't be debating whether we need these reforms at this stage of our development. So essentially, those bills are trying to harmonize the various taxes that we have so that we can have a single-digit number of taxes across all levels of government compared to what we have today that is just so fragmented and is all over the place. In addition to that, we want to also harmonize how we administer those taxes. We also want to harmonize how those taxes are reported so that there is better transparency and the taxes that our people pay can then be used for their own benefits. So we also, of course, have so many provisions in those bills to do with modernizing the system, ensuring that we provide incentives in the right places, like what we call priority sector incentive. There are some sectors that have been identified as priority sectors, and they're going to be getting incentives that would enable them to invest and grow very fast. And on the other hand as well, we see a lot of incentives we have today that are not only wasteful, but they are distorting the economy. And so we also want to be able to fix that so that people can play on a level playing field where you're not having an advantage because you know someone in power. Let there be the opportunity for shared prosperity for all the Nigerian people. So there are benefits for households, there are benefits for individuals, including our young people. There are provisions there to take care of people with disability. There are provisions there to take care of large businesses, small businesses. In a nutshell, there's something in that reform for everyone. And in fact, more importantly, there's everything in that reform for our dear country, Nigeria, because we believe that the rising tide lifts all boats. If we have a Nigeria that works, everybody will find a place for themselves within that working Nigeria.
Oh, thank you so very much for that, sir. I think you've set the ball rolling for the conference, and already we've got some hands up already now, and that says a lot about your opening answer to my question. That's why I would just like to keep it simple so that it's not going to be about me or about the Renewed Hope conference. It's going to be about our special guests and about Nigerians as a whole. So let me now yield the floor to one of my co-hosts now to begin to fire the questions from our participants. Let me introduce my one of my co-hosts is Honorable Udeme Ukwe. Honorable Udeme Ukwe, you take the first two questions, then we'll move on from there. The way it will work is my co-host will take those two questions, then he will yield the floor to you, Your Excellency, to answer those questions all at all at the same time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, my chief host, Ambassador J.K. Debola, for the opportunity to be one of the co-hosts for today's conference. And I just want to welcome again our distinguished special guest, Your Excellency, I would say, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. So I'll be taking the questions. I think we have two hands up. Please, for our participants, please, can you, limit your questions to 1 minute, so that with time we can have more people ask their questions and we can finish on time. Please, can we unmute, admin, please, can you unmute Engineer Bola Babarinde and Mr. Ibrahim Haruna, please be on standby. Engineer Bola Babarinde, you have the floor for your question. Engineer Bola Babarinde, are you there? Right, okay. I'm not sure. Is your mic? I think you are unmuted, but we can't hear you, Engineer Bola Babarinde. Right, can we go to Ibrahim Haruna, please? Ibrahim Haruna.
Yeah. Thank you so much. My pleasure to be on this, and like always, I want to appreciate Mr. Taiwo Oyedele for the great work you've been doing. I have been following you from the day one. But I live in Toronto, but I have business here in Canada. I also have business in Nigeria. In Canada here, for instance, if as a company, if you don't do anything, any work, you're only required to do your annual returns, which is $12. And you also do your file your taxes, right? That's it. If you don't file your annual returns for 2 years, they will close your company. They will close your company. In Nigeria, if you have your company, I've had my company, for instance, where there was a time for a period of 4 years, I didn't do anything. When I wanted to revive it in 2016, I had to pay all the four years I didn't do anything. I had to pay some certain amount of money. This new tax bill, as a company, if I don't do any work for a period for 1 year, will I be required to pay any money to the government? And that's my simple question. And thank you again for the good work you are doing. I'm looking forward for the tax to be passed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibrahim Haruna. Let me go back again to Engineer Bola Babarinde. Let me see if you're still on. Engineer Bola Babarinde, are you still there? Can we have the admin unmute him if he's still there? You have the floor now, Engineer Bola Babarinde, for your question. Okay, I think there's probably a problem with your network or your Zoom. Right, I would go to Adam. It says Adam and Eve, Jennifer, but I would go to Jennifer. Jennifer, can you please ask your question? Jennifer, then I'll yield the floor to our special guest. Jennifer, please, your question.
Good evening, my chairman. Good evening, everyone on this call. I'm Jennifer Ogbede, GM Finance, Adam and Eve. I've been following closely the talks by my chairman, who is my lecturer when I was doing my ICANN exam. Chairman, again, good evening. Okay, now, my question is not basic question, but a prayer, because I've looked at the area of the personal income proposed tax rates. And then I just have two prayers after I explain the situation. I use myself, who is on a gross salary of over 6 million annually. I go home with a take home of over 400,000, which like £250 every month. But by the time I do the basic necessities, I barely have money for emergencies or other social needs. So I'm just considering people who are in the levels of 1 million to 3 million per annum, and they will need to pay after the first tax exemption of 800,000, the next rate is 15%. So my question to this the honorable chairman and his committee is that, sir, please, number one, can we raise the threshold of the amount that is being exempted from tax to 100,000 per month or 1.2 per year? And the next percentage that should follow the exempted rate should be between 8 and 10%. Because these people, I'm single and I barely scrap by with what I earn, which is like over 6 million per annum. Just imagine the classes of people in that group of 1 million to 3 million annum having children and expenses and the needs and the tasks, still eat deep into their take home. So please, sir, it's a prayer. Let us look at that area. The amount that is being exempted can be raised to 100,000 per month, and the rate following that exemption rate can be reduced to 8 to 10%. Thank you, my chairman.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, for your question. I'll now yield the floor to our special guest to look at the responses for firstly from Mr. Ibrahim, and then with the comments from Jennifer. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much, moderator, and thank you to people who asked those questions. And it's okay to just address me as Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. So thank you to Ibrahim Haruna for that question and sharing your experience about what happens in Canada. Many times our people want Nigeria to be one of the best countries in the world, like the US, like Canada, like the UK. But many of us are not willing to do what they're doing in those countries. And that's part of what these reforms are trying to address. So we have provisions in those reform bills mandating the filing of returns. Although we do not have any provision that says you must pay a certain amount, but you must file your returns. Now, if you fail to file your returns, then there are penalties that you have to pay, right? So which means if you don't want to pay any penalty, just file your returns. And we're working with the tax authorities to simplify how those returns are done, including being able to do that easily online. And in fact, we're hoping we get to a point where you can do it on your phone, by just tapping a few things here and there in a couple of minutes. So once we get to that point, the primary objective is to get as much data as possible about our people, because that would enable government to do proper planning. God forbid if you have another COVID-19 or anything like that, and government wants to help our vulnerable population, you don't have to be going to villages and be asking who is poor and who is not poor. The data you have on the system will tell you who is poor. You have their bank accounts, you have their phone numbers, so you can do food stamp, you can credit their account, and everything just becomes very decent, organized, and transparent. Of course, if you declare your returns and you earn decent amount of money, you need to pay tax, but that's how we keep the economy running and ensure that we provide social services to all our citizens. So the answer to the question is yes, we have provisions mandating the filing of returns. Those returns are a lot more simplified, and there are penalties for failure to do that. We do not have minimum amount of tax you have to pay. Just declare your income. If you are below the threshold, then you are completely exempted, no tax to be paid. If you are above the threshold for exemption, then you have to pay the appropriate amount of tax. And to the second question from Jennifer. Yes, Jennifer, good question that you asked, but what I'll tell you is that if you earn 6 million naira per annum, your tax is actually coming down under the reforms than what you pay today. So we released a computation model a few days ago, or maybe last week. So if you go to the presidential committee's website or social media account or my own account, because I always share those things as well, you find the model is there as we speak now. So when you go to the model, just type in your current gross salary. It will tell you the tax that you are paying now and the tax you pay under the reform. The table that you are referring to can be very confusing, and we understand that. So you are right, you earn 800,000 and is 0%. There's an additional 200,000 for rent relief. That makes it about 1 million. And in fact, the lawmakers in their work now are also thinking about increasing it for that because of the submission from many stakeholders. And we have no objections to that. The reason why we have not suggested something higher than that is because there are many states in Nigeria where about 70 to 80% of their taxpayers are below that threshold of 1 million per annum. You also don't want them to be bankrupt and run out of IGR. So it's something that you have to balance. But what I'll say to you is that the 6 million, if you earn 6 million today, that your 6 million is spread across the tax band, and a significant amount of that, your 6 million, ends up being taxed at 24%. Because once you hit about 3-point-something million in Nigeria, you are being taxed at 24%. But today, the next band is 15, the first band is 0. And like I said to you, go and use that template, and you'll be, I'm sure you'll be very happy to see that your personal income tax and PAYE will come down under the reforms. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so very much, sir, for that response to those questions. Again, I'll have to yield the floor now to another co-host who will take the next two questions. He is Honorable Jacob Ogunsheye. You have the floor now.
Good evening, sir. My dear Chief Host, Ambassador J.K. Adebola, and I want to welcome our guest again tonight. Thank you, sir, for coming to this event. Well, I will not waste anybody's time. I will quickly go to our to the next person on the platform. That is Ikanke Abia. Ikanke Abia, can please unmute and have the floor, please.
Thank you very much, the host and the co-host, for the opportunity to ask my question. So I have a registered business in Nigeria, and a few years later, I woke up to notice that I am owing some fees, levies, and some fees basically to the government. So what I want to know is, because I also opened a company business name here in the UK, and I discovered that there's this synergy between the company house, which is the equivalent of the Corporate Affairs Commission, and the tax office. So they work together. There's a synergy and between the two, and there is effective communication between them and myself. I get to know when I need to file, I need to update my records, all those information, you get them on time and consistently. Now, but that of Nigeria, I never got those kind of communication, correspondence between me and the Corporate Affairs Commission or the tax office. So I want to know. So basically, I woke up one day to discover that I'm owing the government, because I've not been using this company name, but I'm owing the government a lot of money. So I want to know if these new tax reforms would make a difference in that area of communicating between company account owners and the Corporate Affairs Commission and the tax office. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Avia, for the question. Let me quickly go to next person on the platform. That is Ajia Kemkem. Ajia Kemkem, please. Can you please unmute and
Right. Thank you very much. Very good afternoon to everyone on the space, or good day to everyone on the space, the host, and of course, our co-host and guest. So my question is, for some people,
Ajia Kemke, we can't hear you. Ajia, I think you are having issue with your mic, as we can't hear you anymore. Okay. Hopefully we have Ajia back. So I can now go back to our South Africa chairman, as an engineer Bola Babarinde.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear, sir.
Good, good. Good afternoon, the guest and our chief host, Ambassador J.K. Adebola, for giving me this opportunity. We in diaspora, we want to do everything possible for the success of our president, and we are on it seriously. I have a proposal for the guests. This proposal can achieve to raise funds for the government through tax and levies approved list for collection act. And this can also achieve through ensuring that the committee effectively perform their duties. Also, I can guarantee that it will yield extra 2 trillion naira for the government annually, if you give us the opportunity to come to you and present our case to you. I'm not boasting about this. We'll give you 2 trillion naira additional revenue so that we can achieve our objective. That's all I need to say.
Thank you, sir. Engineer. I don't think anybody will want to resist that kind of offer to make a 2 trillion naira additional revenue for a country. And anyway, let our guests take care of that question. Well, I'm sure that should be yes. Thank you, sir. You can have the floor, sir, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much, my brother. So the first one, and that's from Ikanke, about having a business in Nigeria, and then you woke up one day and you were told you are owing a lot of fees that you need to pay, and you were sharing your experience in terms of what happens in the UK between the company house and the HMRC, which doesn't seem to be the case in Nigeria between the Corporate Affairs Commission and the FRS. Yes, your observation is right. And those are some of the areas we are working on as well. In fact, one of the mandates of the work of my committee is to look at the areas of competitiveness and economic growth. And what we were asked to do is to look for those areas of impediments, areas where we can collaborate better, where we can have integration between and among governments, and not only federal, but also subnational. And so we are also working with Ministry of Trade, Industry and Investment and many other ministry and agencies. So these works are ongoing now. So we have been able to achieve some level of integration between the Corporate Affairs Commission and the FRS, but it's not there yet where it needs to be. So one, we are trying to streamline all these fees and levies, not just taxes alone. Number two, we want to be able to have proper integration. And number three, we want government to be more proactive. So government should help you do the right thing than wait for you to do the wrong thing and then look for a way to punish you. That's not the spirit. We want to be able to enable our people to prosper, as well as for businesses to grow. What I can assure you is that you'll see that improvement as we go into implementation of the reforms. And of course, we've in fact had some engagement with the HMRC in the UK. So we've also learned quite a lot from them. And so also we're able to learn from other countries, including countries in Africa, because we believe that we can learn from everyone. There are so many people also want to learn from what we're doing. At the end of the day, the outcome of it will be that we have a better Nigeria. So thank you for raising that issue. and we're happy to let you know that that's been addressed. To the second question from Engineer Babarinde, of course, if you hear an idea to raise 2 trillion, what would come to your mind is, oh, wow, that's a good idea. So we welcome submissions and input from all Nigerians. In fact, for people that are not even Nigerians, that they just feel like they're friends of Nigeria, we welcome ideas from them. We spent, over a year asking for submissions. We have things online. We have physical submission. And we are very grateful to the level of for the level of interest and engagement we have received and submissions. In fact, we received submissions from every single state in Nigeria. Even we were pleasantly surprised at the level of interest. So if you have anything that you want to share with us, that's fine. I have to say, though, that our excitement is not about the revenue we can generate, because we are careful not to be taxing seed. What we have seen in Nigeria before is somebody would just come up with an idea and say, let's tax. There's the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria today that they are taxing a percentage of market capitalization. They are taxing turnover of companies. A lot of people came to us with ideas of you can tax bank transfers, because there was 1 quadrillion that was transferred last year through the digital system. So for us, we're not looking for things to tax all over the place. We're looking for how to make the Nigerian people prosper. We want to create wealth for our people. We want our people to be billionaires in dollars, millionaires in dollars, leave people out of poverty. And then tax revenue will come as a consequence, rather than placing taxes ahead of prosperity. But we are open to ideas, so please do feel free to share those ideas with us. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, sir, for that concise responses. We've got a couple before I go back to the participants. We've got a couple of questions on the chat room. But before then, we have some VVIPs who has joined us. They've always been supporting us and supporting our special guest. And today we have another supporter of our special guest today. It's like I said last week, because he's been with us now for about 3 or 4 times now, and they don't come any bigger than this VVIP that I'm about to announce to you, sir. And I'm sure you will be pleasantly surprised too. He is the Chief of Staff to the President, no less. He's Right Honorable Femi Gbadabiamila. He is in the conference now, giving you his moral support and supporting us for what we do. Your Excellency, sir, thank you so very much for being there for us. Every time I see your name, me personally, I'm just overwhelmed, because it shows that at least it lays credence to what I have always been saying, that the crop of leaders that we have today in Nigeria are very receptive to the yearnings of Nigerians, and they are always open. Every time we knock on their doors, they are always ready, to oblige us, just like you have done too, sir. So thank you so very much, your Right Honorable Femi Gbadabiamila, for having our back every week. Thank you so very much. We really appreciate that. And we also have the Director of Protocol from the Presidency, Alhaji Abdulaziz, watching us in the conference. And same with the Chief Spokesperson of Mr. President, no less. It's like I told you, they don't come any bigger than this sort of VVIPs that we have in here today. It's no other person than Mr. Bayo Onanuga. I met him once in Transcorp in Abuja, and I was bowled over by his warmness. Thank you so very much, sir, for being part of this. And we also have other presidential staff watching us in the Villa conference room as we speak. So that says a lot about the interest of the presidency, no less, about what we are doing and about you, our special guest. So thank you so very much for being part of it. So let me just go quickly before we go on back to participants. I have one question of my own, and I have one that I want to pick up from from the chat room. Let me start with the one from the chat room, which is from Kola Adegbite. He says, what changes are anticipated between the proposed bills and the final enacted laws by lawmakers? That's from Kola Adegbite from the chat room. And my own question to you, sir, would be, even though we know the House of Reps passed the bill yesterday, but I still want you to drop a hint regarding that bit, so that Nigerians across the world will know exactly where we are with the bill. So at what stage is the bill in the National Assembly, sir?
All right, thank you very much, Ambassador, and happy to see the VVIPs that have joined to provide support. We're very grateful and we welcome them. So on the first one, in terms of the changes that have been done, of course, it's important to put it on record that at this stage of the life cycle of the bills, in the journey towards becoming laws, it's actually just within the purview of the lawmakers. So we had the privilege and the opportunity to be asked to provide some explanation and to provide some clarification. So we also have a good idea of some of the changes they have made. So what I'll say is that, you know, and this is one of the, so this is the beauty of democracy. If this were to be a military era, you set up a committee, they give you the bill, you sign it the following day, and then you find out later on that there are issues subsequently. So, but the beauty of democracy is you have the opportunity of those debates. People bring in their ideas. They don't have to be experts. They just have to be Nigerians who love their country. And so we see that some of our very important stakeholders, like the Governors Forum, had made some proposals about what they would like to see. For example, they're saying don't increase the VAT rate now. And they said don't reduce companies' income tax now. You know, don't sunset the sharing of revenue to TET fund, to Naseni, NIDA. So they made some of those submissions, and the lawmakers also agree with them. And so those changes have been incorporated into the version of the bills passed by the House of Representatives. In addition to that, we also have areas where, for example, like Jennifer asked earlier on, where the House of Rep thought that we should increase the allowance to Nigerian people that is tax-free for rent, and they have a rate now that is up to 500,000. Instead of 200,000. They've also increased the threshold for what is a small company. We had proposed that a company that earns 50 million naira or less in a year should not pay tax. Their CIT will be 0%. They don't need to charge VAT, because we just want them to focus on growing and doing business and thriving. So the lawmakers have raised that threshold to 100 million. So those are some of the highlights of the changes they have made, quite a number of them, but I know that we don't have so much time, so let me stop there. And of course, I think at the appropriate time, we'll be more than happy to share a copy of the amended bill once we have the approval of the House of Rep to do so. To your question, sir, in terms of, you know, what stage are we at now and what else should we expect? So at the moment, because it's been passed by the House of Representatives, the Senate, we of course, we know they had their own public hearing for 2 days. We're also aware that they had their retreats, and they're now at the stages of finalizing the version of the bills from the Senate. And most likely the content will not be the same as the House of Representatives. Then they will then sit down together to try and harmonize. And once they harmonize and that is passed, then it goes to Mr. President for assent. Of course, again, this whole process is entirely within the jurisdiction and the powers of the lawmakers. But we are hopeful that the level of energy, the level of diligence that we have seen will be sustained, such that, you know, I'm actually a very optimistic person, such that before the end of April, all of this should be, you know, behind us, in the sense that we should have a law by that time and then start working towards the implementation so that the Nigerian people can begin to see the real impact and benefits of these reforms in a very meaningful and impactful way.
Thank you so very much, sir, for that concise response to those questions. So let me move on swiftly now back to the participants. We've got a couple of hands on. I will call on Hajia Rekia Bello Abakar to please take the next two questions. Hajia Rekia Bello Abakar, you have the floor now.
Very much, Mr. Chairman. Once again, welcome to our special guest, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. I've got two participants that would like to ask you some questions. The first one is Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, coincidentally, your namesake.
Yes.
And for the participants, please, the house rule is if your name does not appear on your device, we cannot call you to answer, or you cannot speak. I have Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, and then I have Vision Consult. And participants, please, you have 1 minute each because we have so many people whose hands are raised who want to ask questions, and then we'll yield the floor to our special guest. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ma. Hi, Taiwo. My name is Taiwo Oyedele. I'm a senior manager in KPMG here, and we used to be colleagues in PwC before I moved here. And I think, again, I know you want to be applauded when you are done with all of the reforms and we start seeing results, not during the reform process. But I think I need to mention that as an alumni here, we are proud of what you do. We see the efforts in changing the system and not the system changing you. And we hope you are successful. I have a couple of questions, but I'll just touch on two and probably if I have the opportunity, touch on others later. My first question is, when these reforms were being set up, there was a vision, right? And all the different reforms work together to achieve a good objective. Now, these reforms, permit me to use the word, will be watered down based on all of these adjustments, right? House of Rep would make the adjustments, governors have made the adjustments. Do you not think this will significantly achieve the ultimate objectives when the key propositions are being compromised? Again, permit me to use the word compromised. Now, my second question is on, I want to understand if the tax reform laws address this. Now, part of the limitations we have as a firm here, like I said, is out of all of the countries, over 100 countries that work with us, Nigeria is one of the 3 countries where we are not permitted to work remotely for even a day, right? And you agree with me that that could come as, maybe again, the word could be embarrassing, where you have 100 people, but you cannot work remotely for even a day because the tax laws are seen to be complex and does not permit us to do that. Now, my question is, does the tax reform laws, the new ones, do they address things like this? Because when you look at the larger picture, right, it also means that people that work remotely, for example, from Nigeria, will be are currently being affected significantly, which again limits what we can do. So I'm not sure how the tax reform laws address this specifically. Then just to chip it in, the third one is, again, my understanding is the burden of tax is moving from low-income earners, right? We're trying to alleviate all of that to middle-income earners and people that earn significantly. Now, that is fine. But if I was someone that was earning so much, my concern is not about, again, when I moved to the UK, I was happy to pay the significant taxes, right? Because I see the benefits, if that makes sense. Now, you are in government, you have the influence. Beyond just paying taxes and collecting our taxes as our income earners, what is your committee doing to also ensure that we see the benefits of these taxes, right? Because sometimes when I go home and I drive in traffic, I drive in bad roads, it hurts me. Do you understand that some of these things still happen because I travel on frequently? What is your committee doing to influence other teams to ensure we are progressive on this thing? I think I'll just pause with that on that note.
Thank you, Mr. Oyedele. Now we'll go to the next participant, Ms. Vision Consult. Are you there? Vision Consult?
Yes.
All right. Oh, consultancy services. Okay, sorry, I didn't see all of the names.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Sorry, this is Ibrahim Haruna again from Toronto. I have to switch on my phone because I have to go to my daughter's game. Yeah. I have 3 questions. Number one, Mr. Oyedele, I'm not sure if Canada was one of the country that you understudy in doing your work. The first question is, here in Canada, for instance, sorry, I'm using Canada example again. We have property tax. For instance, I pay almost over $8,000 on my house. For instance, right? This money goes to the city. They use it to take care of the police and road and so many other stuff. I'm not sure if this is part of what you have captured. The second one is the unused property. You imagine in Abuja, for instance, we have so many unoccupied houses. Here, the federal government charges 1% of the value of the house. The city of Toronto, for instance, they charge 3%, and some other cities are different. And the third question is about, here in Canada, for instance, we have the HST and the GST. The HST is the federal government tax, and the GST are the province, which is equivalent to the state. It's only Alberta who doesn't charge the GST. They only pay 5% for the federal government in Alberta. But most of the other provinces, we pay some province 13%, some 15%, Ontario is 13%, New Brunswick is 15%, and it varies like that. So do you have provision for these 3 questions I have asked you in the new tax bill? And if not, are you looking into those? Because these are the various ways in which government raise money to actually fund capital projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambition Consultancy Services Incorporated. I'll now yield the floor to our special guest to respond. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam, and thank you to Taiwo Oyedele. So yes, the first point you raised is around the vision and the objectives for the reform versus the changes that are being made, whether that will water down in any way the overall objectives. I'll say the answer is no, because you have to recognize that development is progressive, so it's one step at a time. We cannot get there overnight. So clearly there are provisions that we would have loved to see now. For example, reducing corporate income tax rates. We believe that the corporate income tax rate in Nigeria, everything combined, is too high. And therefore, it doesn't make us very competitive. But then, in trying to balance different things, we also said, let's make basic consumption like food, health, medical to be 0% of VAT, exempt transportation and housing from VAT, and also get rid of the consumption taxes that you have all over the place in addition to VAT, so that there are not too many taxes, and then give businesses input credit. So when businesses invest in assets, plant, factory, computers, or they pay for services, consulting, technical, and they pay VAT, they should get their VAT back. So, and this is going to bring down the cost of doing business significantly for businesses. And then there's a threshold for small businesses not to worry about charging VAT. So we're very confident that we have the masses of Nigerians protected, that the cost of VAT to them will come down under the reforms. And therefore, those of us who are not so poor and consume luxury, you want to do entertainment, you go to 5-star hotel, you pay for wines, you buy smartphones, you buy luxury cars, just pay a little bit more so we can balance the books. But the governor said, no, don't do it now, right? So, and therefore, because they don't want us to do that now, but we want them that revenues will fall, they said, okay, don't reduce CIT. I mentioned these two because they're the most significant of the reforms where they have said, and if you listen to the wordings of their communique, they said for now, which means they're not saying we shouldn't do it at all. They said do not do it now. So we respect that and we accept. So what we are looking to do now is hopefully if we can convince the lawmakers to leave those proposed rates with a future date. That's one option. Alternatively, they can pass the bills now without those new rates that we propose. And then subsequently, when the time is right, and of course, subject to the approval of Mr. President we can then send a bill for an amendment to also conclude the reform. So it's progress, and so we do not think that that compromises the objectives of the reforms in any way. Your second point was to do with, people pay taxes, but then what do they get for the taxes that they pay? Because you pay a lot of taxes in the UK, but you see the benefit of the taxes you pay. And then many of us in Nigeria can't proudly say that we see the benefits of the taxes we pay. And you're right, for us, and that's why we said that we have statutory taxes that people pay. We also have what we call implicit taxes, because if we decide not to pay taxes to the government, we're going to have to use our money to take care of what government should be doing for us, whether it's fixing road or trying to provide water in the estate where you live, or roads and all of that. We need to fix all of that in Nigeria. So when I started, I made a comment about our reforms, not just being about tax. And that's why Mr. President said we should do fiscal and tax reform. And fiscal policy has, one leg in revenues, including taxation, another leg in government spending, and another leg in borrowing. All of that are being covered under the reforms. It's just that the tax bills have been the most popular. So in a nutshell, why we cannot dictate to the politicians, we of course can recommend a framework to them, and they have been very receptive, whether you're talking about governors. Of course, Mr. President himself is the promoter and champion and sponsor of the whole reform, as well as even local government, chairman as well. So we think that this journey has started, and it will get us very quickly to a point where people will see the benefit of the taxes that they pay, and we begin to move closer to that Nigeria of our aspiration that we want, where we can stand shoulder to shoulder with the best in the world as a result of these reforms. So the last part of your question is to do with being able to work remotely. For me too, this was really very painful for me. It's something I've always personally been trying to push government to do this reform for so many years, and we have been very unsuccessful with it. But once Mr. President gave us this opportunity for a holistic reform, we're very clear in our mind that we must not miss this opportunity. Because during the COVID-19 pandemic, and most people were working from home, I got a lot of requests. I was still at PwC at the time. I got a lot of requests from Nigerians who were living and working abroad, Canada, UK, US. And they were asking that, of course, if I live and work in the UK, and I know for the next 30 days I'll be working from home, maybe I just want to come to Nigeria and be with my family and continue to work. And so those companies were asking us questions to say, is it safe? Not safety about COVID though, from a tax point of view, is it safe for us to allow our employees who are Nigerians come to Nigeria to work from there? And the answer was, it wasn't safe. As we were giving them the responses, I was feeling bad myself. And this is because the Nigerian tax law will punish the employer for allowing their employee to work remotely from Nigeria. That does not make any sense at all. So in the tax reform bills, this has been squarely addressed. And I can announce the good news to you that once these laws are passed, you are welcome to come to Nigeria and work remotely for as long as you want. At least you can spend your dollars and pounds here and there and help us increase our GDP. So the answer to that question is yes. To my brother, Envision Consultancy, yeah, you raised two questions on property tax. And the answer is yes. We also looked at Canada. In fact, we looked at Canada in terms of property tax. We looked at Canada in terms of GST, which is the equivalent of our value-added tax. And we think that there's a lot we can learn from Canada. But the challenge we have in Nigeria is that property tax is within the purview of the subnational. So between the states and the local government, they collect property taxes. So what we have done is we have developed a framework for what a property tax system should look like. And we're having this conversation now with the subnational. And they're Lagos State, for example, they're very receptive to it. Of course, the FCT is on board and some other states. And we have the support from even our international partners, like the World Bank has done a lot of work in terms of property tax across the world that they were sharing with us. One of the experience that the World Bank facilitated was we had an engagement with, a gentleman who is leading property taxation regime in Colombia. And this guy was saying to us in Bogota. Bogota collects more than $1 billion from property tax in 1 year. Bogota is not as big as Lagos. $1 billion is more than 1.5 trillion. So Lagos State is not even collecting 100 billion from property tax. So we're having these conversations with the state, and we are positive that the taxes will not only help us raise revenue, they will help us moderate our behavior. So you should not have empty houses that you are not using for anything, because you are reducing the supply of property. And number two is, if you design your property tax properly, not taxing poor people, then the money you collect from property tax, you can channel it deliberately towards improving the environment, whether it's to do with sanitation, the roads, the infrastructure within those estates and the community. And as you do that, not only do you improve the quality of the lives and livelihood and well-being of the people, the value of the properties would also go up. So which also means that the revenue you collect from property tax also goes up. It just becomes a cycle of prosperity where, you know, the economy can be transformed very, very significantly. So we are working on that. So your last question is on GST. Of course, for us, we are not introducing more consumption taxes. We are focusing on value-added tax, which is our own equivalent of what you have as GST in Canada. And we have introduced a lot of reforms into the VAT system. I have already mentioned some of them. One additional point is we are introducing what we call fiscalization, which is really using technology to do an electronic invoicing system such that when anybody invoices for goods and services, a copy of that invoice goes to the taxman automatically. And that helps us to curb tax evasion, because if you have a country where some people can evade taxes and get away with it, and other people are paying taxes, what you're essentially doing, you are rewarding bad behavior by allowing the evaders to get away with it, and you are punishing people who are trying to behave well because they are out of pocket. And if you're not careful, these other bad guys, we price them out of the market. So we think beyond collecting revenues for taxes, it's important that we address tax evasion, and therefore we're introducing, as part of the VAT reform, which is the equivalent of GST, fiscalization, among other things. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your responses. I'll now hand over to our chief host, Barrister J.K. Adebola. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Hajia. Before I go back to the participants now, I think I have one of the participants who spoke earlier, Engineer Babanide from South Africa, just sent me this message. Apparently, in response to a special guest's response to his own submission, which is that the reason why I'm bringing it up now because you've just spoken about tax evasion now, which is what he seems to be suggesting now, that his own idea that he said will raise, I think it's 3 trillion naira for the government, is about not about taxing people. Yeah. It says our idea is not about giving extra burden on Nigerians, but getting revenue from non-compliance from corporations and companies. We are simply trying to plug the loopholes. That is his exact message. So, with that in mind, I'm hoping that perhaps that that is something that resonates with you as to your idea within the tax bill. I'm sure that is what this is all about. So perhaps maybe it's like he said, if it's possible for him to meet with you in Abuja to lay all of this on the table so that we just you just never know, we might be able to get something out of this.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay. So do we facilitate that move, Sam?
Yes, you can, but my preference personally is always for them to share a note, like a concept note, because without sounding like we receive all the input from the whole world, what you find is that a lot of the ideas on blocking loophole and tax evasions, we've considered a lot, to be honest. So if we see the note and it's something we've considered, we can just say, oh, thank you, this has been considered. And if
Okay.
it's something we haven't talked about, we can then arrange a meeting so we can manage time more efficiently. So that's the approach I would recommend if it's
Okay.
acceptable to our brother.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. So, Honorable Babarede is on the program. So, you can send the proposal to our email address. It's in the chat room. So we will forward it to our special guests. Of course, we need your email address or maybe telephone, WhatsApp number, whichever one you prefer him to respond to you to by. So just put it on there so that we will forward it to our special guest, and then he will respond to you directly. So then you can both take it from there. So thank you so very much. You see, we keep saying to Nigerians that our leaders are very receptive. If you have ideas, bring it on our program. They will get back to you on it. So you see, this is another one now where preparation is meeting opportunity. Thank you so very much for that. I really do appreciate that. Thanks. So let me go forward now. I think my co-host Tosi Olayinka, you have the floor now for the next two questions. Thank you very much. Can we unmute Honorable Tosi Olayinka, please?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everybody, depending on where you're joining from. And also, I thank you so much, our chief host, Barrister J.K. Adebola. And also, I welcome our distinguished guest, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. Now, I want to go straight to our participants who have been waiting to ask their question or perhaps to submit their submission. I would like to call on Mr. Ladi to get ready. And shortly after that, Mr. Jamiu Aziz. So, Mr. Ladi, you have the floor now. Thank you. Can we please help to meet Mr. Ladi?
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, fantastic. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever we are. Thank you for taking my call. I just want to say a big thank you to the chair and his committee for the great work they're doing. I think this is probably a once in a generation opportunity for anybody involved in tax to make a contribution to the fiscal and tax reform in Nigeria. I can't even recall.
Honorable Ladi, where are you calling from, sir?
Okay, sorry. I am calling from the United Kingdom.
Thank you, sir.
I am a tax professional. I've worked with so many companies in the banks and in the private sector, public sector as well. I was actually in the tax committee ICANN with the chair, but I don't want that to dominate my submission.
Okay.
So, right. So, like I said, I'm really very grateful actually for this opportunity to make a contribution. I've got so many things that I want to say, but I think I'll just try and keep it to the minimum. I think the opportunity I find here is about the vision for the country in terms of what's the vision, because different governments have got different policies. Like in the UK, for example, we've got the Labour government who like to tax and spend, and we have the Conservative government who like to make sure that people keep as much as possible of their money in their pocket and tax them as little as possible, so that they believe that by so doing, they go ahead and create wealth. So that's the first thing. So it's about the vision and how do we see ourselves going forward. I know a lot of people have been talking about revenue generation, they can raise this, they can raise that. But I think the task which is in front of this committee, I think is far bigger than that. And I think that it's not about revenue generation, because if I hear the chairman correctly, he was talking about vision and not about just taxing people or whatever, So, and I find that very interesting and very welcoming. So what are my own personal submissions? I think I will probably make a detailed write-up to the chair and to the committee, because I don't think I can cover everything I want to say here. But just to touch on it, on one or two things, I think that Nigeria is a developing country. And I know that we've made references to Canada, to UK, to these places, but we need to understand that these are developed very highly developed economies, and we cannot compare Nigeria to these countries in terms of, the level of administration and reforms. So I think the committee, and I think they're already doing it anyway, they need to think out of the box to look at Nigeria's peculiarities and design strategies that will fit it, after obviously taking into account everything else that everybody else is doing. So I'll give you an example. In the UK, for example, when I came to the United Kingdom, I've been here for nearly 40 years. When I came in, the East London was like, like a Jegunle in Nigeria, like in Lagos State. What did the government do? They introduced tax incentives. And one of the incentives was called the Enterprise Investment Zone. So that they go around, look at areas where that is run down, for example. And this can apply to anything. And they incentivize people to go and invest there. If you come today to the east of London, you look at those who come to London regularly, they know Canary Wharf. That place is completely, that place used to be dry docks. It used to be like docks where the ships come, and dry docks as well. It's completely transformed. It's like Dubai now. What am I saying? Is incentivization, I think, should play a key part. I'm not too happy with ideas that if you earn between this and that, you don't pay tax. Even if it's only a standard fee of, say, 100 naira, levy Nigerians. Because what do we want to do? We want to incentivize them to say tax paying is a necessity for everybody. So even if you earn 1 million and you're out of tax, you pay 100 naira, you fulfill your commitment. So that way, you can beat your chest when it comes to politics. And when you look at politicians and say, look, I'm a taxpayer. Even though you're only paying 100 naira, you are still a taxpayer. You understand? And that changes the mindset, because in this country, for example, all we say is that they are, taxpayers' money, taxpayers' money. If the government does this, we say taxpayers' money is being spent unwisely,
Sorry, Mr. Ladi, I guess probably you've exceeded the time limit. Yeah, we hope probably on the other side, you'll be able to give us a kind of comprehensive analysis of the other point you've been trying to deliver. Yes, I would like to call on Mr. Jamil Aziz. Do we have Mr. Jamil Aziz ready? Please, can we please help unmute Mr. Jamil Aziz?
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you. You can go on, please.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Professor Taiwo Oyedele. And I'm actually delighted to hear you, like having a phone call with you directly here. And thank you for the good work you've done to our country. And thank you, the New Hope UK group. Thank you all. Please, my question is so simple. The first question, are we not going to have a déjà vu with the Senate passing, because all we've had now with because we have a lot of disappointment about the adjustment made by the House of Representatives, to be frank, because we believe in the objective submission of the committee. So are we not going to have a déjà vu? Are we expecting can we have hope that Senate are going to make some difference? Is that possible? And then, in any case, do we have the room for review of the bill, maybe by the current president or a future president that wants to do something else? Because the VAT sharing formula is not encouraging. That one has been the one of the most controversial aspects of the bill. Is it possible to have they given a room in the current tax law as the bill that they pass in the House of Representatives, that they can still have a second look at that sharing formula? And number 3 is that the CIT is not clear to me. Have they acceded to the request of the governor to leave it at 30%? So I want to know. And if they have done that, do we still have room for review? So those are my questions. And once again, thank you, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. May the good Lord continue to bless you. You've done well. You've done well. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you very much for that, Mr. Jamil Aziz. On this note, I would like to yield the floor to our guest to please probably answer those questions and also to other submissions raised. Thank you.
All right. Thank you again for those questions and to moderator, Mr. Tosin. So the first one is from Mr. Ladi. And so he was wondering, and also, commending the vision of these reforms set out by Mr. President, which we adopted. And if I want to summarize it for you, I would say that what the government is trying to build is a tax system that is people-oriented, is growth-enabling, and competitive. That's the summary of it, and that's what we are working with. So you have to think about the people. You have to think about growth. You have to think about competitiveness, because Nigeria is not an island to itself. We want to have headquarter location in Nigeria. Let people come here and set up headquarter location and invest in the rest of Africa and the rest of the world. So that is the focus. That's why I made the point, and I thought it was important to make that point, that this is not a reform to go and look for all the revenues that you can find, because we know very well that the most sustainable way to generate revenue is to enable growth. So when there's growth, revenue will come as a consequence. So thank you for agreeing with that direction of travel. The other point you raise is that, Nigeria is not a developed country, and we agree. So we're not at the level of the UK and Canada and the US. So we haven't learned from any country, and we have just copied and pasted. The approach we adopted was to say, let's just learn from everyone. By the way, we also learned from Ghana Revenue Authority. We spent time with Rwanda Revenue Authority. You'll be surprised that actually, of all the countries that we understudied, Rwanda Revenue Service is one of the most developed in the world. And I say that confident, and I challenge anybody to disagree with me based on data. It's amazing what they've done for themselves, and it's a very small country. So we've also learned from South African Revenue Service, one of the best on the continent. So we've also learned from, the big ones, UK, US, Canada, Australia. So we've learned from everyone, and we have decided after all the learning to say, what is it that will work for their country, Nigeria? Because we're different. Every country is different. It's not going to be copy and pasting. So that was the essence of those learning. So we do take that point carefully. So your point was that in the UK, for example, they use incentive to develop certain areas like East London. So we have those provisions in the tax reforms, and that's what we've called the priority sector. So we are not focusing on areas because, Nigeria also is quite sensitive. By the time you put an area in the bill to say, if you develop this area, you get incentive, somebody will find one story that shows that, oh, it is in the south or it is the north. There are just too many battles to fight. So we don't want that at the moment. We think that if we identify priority sectors, it will cut across and every region will benefit. But I think what you're saying is that in principle, we have similar provisions in our law that is customized to our own situation. You raise the point about everybody should pay something, whether it's small, even if it's just 100 naira, so you're a taxpayer. And interestingly, this was one of the most hotly debated topic in our committee. We debated this extent. In fact, we can write a whole book on our debate on this. And what we said is, because there were quite a number of people that shared the view of let everybody pay something so they will know they're paying taxes. But in our trying to understand the rest of the world, like in the UK, I think it's now about £13,000, you don't pay tax. In South Africa, 600,000 a month, you don't pay tax. In Kenya, 280,000 a month, you don't pay tax. So all the countries that are doing far better than us, they are not taxing their poorest people. So we did not find a single model of a country where they are taxing their poorest people to be able to develop. So we believe, based on available data, that poor person, even if it's 50 naira airtime that they bought in a month, they pay VAT on it. You know, so if it's you know, one day that they just feel like, you know what, let me just buy a bottle of Coke because it's my birthday, they pay VAT on it. So it's not like they are totally exempted from the tax system, but we don't want them to be paying income tax because their income is too small. It's barely enough to keep body and soul together for them. So that is the way we propose the reforms from this perspective. So the other questions are from my brother Aziz, and you know, his point was, can we have hope in that the Senate will help us address some of the issues and maybe not, you know, change too many things? I'll say we have hope in the National Assembly as a whole, even the House of Rep as well as the Senate, because we know they love Nigeria. So, you know, sometimes, and this is where I get my own motivation from, every single Nigerian that I speak to, whether they are rich or poor, whether they're in power or out of power or not, another person on the street, Nigerians love their country. I did not even realize the extent of the love that Nigerians have for their country until I started this my job. If I tell you that there's a Nigerian who spent 15 million of his money to promote what we're doing, 15 million. So there are Nigerians who sent me a mail, and there's a guy who works in the US for an investment bank. This guy earned $250,000 a year. And he said to me, if you ask me to come now, I'm resigning and I'm coming. I said, but there's no money. He said, I'm not looking for money. So I can tell you that Nigerians love their country. You may have a different approach to the solution to Nigeria, and you should not. It will be arrogance for you to think that your own suggestion is the only one that can work and is the best, right? There's no such thing. So for us, that's the way we are very receptive to the ideas from everyone, and of course, most importantly, from the lawmakers. So we are confident in the work of the National Assembly, House, and the Senate to help us push these reforms across the line in a way that is meaningful, impactful, and will help us to begin that journey for a greater Nigeria. Whatever it is that we can do now, it doesn't have to be 100% today. Maybe 90% is good enough, and then we can do the remaining ones in another 1 or 2 years. So that's the way I'll put it. So the other question that you ask is, you know, like the point you raised around VAT sharing formula. You know, if they pass the bill today and Mr. President signs it into law, it gives you the opportunity for those things to play out, right? A lot of the things we said, and some people were not too sure how it will play out. They're going to see it play out in real life. Maybe in another 1 year, to be the governors that say we are ready now to complete the reforms, you know. On CIT rates, as we speak now, the understanding that I have myself is that the lawmakers agree with the governors, and therefore CIT rates will not be going down immediately. It will remain at 30%. But like I said before, we remain very hopeful that in the very, very near future, we'll have the opportunity to continue with this engagement. And if it's necessary, maybe to be an amendment, or maybe even before the laws are passed, we may have a reduction that is post-dated. So maybe they will say, yeah, you can reduce the rate, but not in 2025, maybe not even in 2026, but maybe sometimes in 27, you never can tell. So the answer is this is still possible. It's just a matter of time. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much, sir, for doing justice to those questions and also concerns. On this note, I would like to yield the floor back to our chief host, Ambassador J.K. Adebola. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so very much, Honorable Tosin Olayinka. Now we have just 32 minutes left now to close this program, and we've still got loads of hands up. So we will be taking the 3 questions at a time now instead of 2. So I will ask one of my co-hosts, Honorable Bayewu, to take the next 3 questions, please. Quickly.
Thank you, Chief Host. Good day, everyone. Thank you, J.K. Adebola and the team, and our special guest, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. I'll be going quickly to ask on Mr. Odetola, Mr. Mululu Nikakwata, and Stephen Lawal. But in this order, Mr. Odetola, you have the floor, sir. Mr. Odetola, you have the floor.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I have 2 questions, so I'll be as brief as I can. The first question is this. I don't know whether the committee has considered this in their part of their report, which is tax incentive for foreign direct investment. I remember that in the 90s, the Republic of Ireland did something similar where foreign direct investment that came to the country do not pay tax for 3 years, and a lot of investment flooded in. But unfortunately, they haven't got the population like Nigeria. They were just 5 million. So there was no personnel to run most of these companies, so they have to take their investment away. Is Nigeria considering something similar? Also, we have diaspora Nigerians who are very cash-rich. We know how much they send home every year in billions. What incentive is the government doing to tap into those cash-rich Nigerians in diaspora? Thank you. That's my question.
Thank you, Mr. Dola, for your question. Can I have Mr. Omololu Nick Akpata, please? Mr. Omololu Nick Akpata, can you have your question, please? Thank you. Can we unmute Mr. Omololu, please? Can we unmute Mr. Omololu, please? Okay, I think we're having issues with Mr. Omololu. Can I have Mr. Stephen Lawal, please? Stephen Lawal, you have the floor, please. Can the co-host unmute? Thank you. Mr. Lawal.
Yes, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Am I online?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you for having me. I have two areas of concern. Actually, the implementation and the orientation. My worry has been that, for a country like ours, we've had a lot of reform even in the time past. And you see the way it was being implemented. I just want to know what this committee, will be doing differently to ensure that the implementation this time around. Let me take an instance. There was, for some of us that have worked in organization where you know that what should be the law is being taken on the other side. And you see them coming out doing the amnesty. Oh, giving $1 billion as a payment of tax, even though the $1 billion is supposed to be an annual payment. So what is this committee going to do differently with regards to the implementation? And what are the time frame for the implementation? On the orientation, I also like to know, I'm happy the chairman made mention of the fact that, which is very well accepted, the fact that we are not here to tax the poor. But how do we educate the members of the public? What are the plans, especially for business owners that may not be aware of the needs to even do the filing on how to go about it? Let me take an instance. Someone has registered a complaint and maybe hit the rock at the first year, only return back maybe after about 10 years after. He brought out the same organization, the CAC. Approaching CAC, they are asking him to pay penalty that will even be better if he incorporate another company. So I'm just trying to see if this same set of people are being educated, if the orientation. So what is the committee going to do differently concerning the orientation? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lawal. Can I have Mr. Omololu Nick Akpata back, please? Mr. Omololu Nick Akpata. Can we unmute Mr. Omololu, please?
Yes, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Congratulations on the job well done, Mr. Oyedele, and thanks for your brilliant presentation on the floor of the Senate a few months ago. I think that just set the ball rolling for many of us. In the past, we've had so many multinationals leave Nigeria, and I think somebody just spoke to that, the first speaker just now, for a slew of reasons, of which must include corporate taxes. As a young employee on Creek Road, Apapa, in the 1970s, it is heartbreaking to see so many of our youth these days roaming the streets without a job. In those days, companies were actually begging Nigerians, to apply for jobs. So now I'm not going to talk about corporate taxes again because that is part of what I wanted to, but what I just want you to speak to, kindly speak to how the implementation of these tax reform bills will mitigate youth unemployment in Nigeria. Thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you, Mr. Honorable Nikapada, for that. I'll now give the floor back to our special guest, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, to respond to those questions. Thank you, sir.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much for those questions. So the first one is from Mr. Odetola, and then his question was, do we have incentives for foreign direct investment? And the answer is yes, but we're very careful that we don't want foreign investment that will come in and have an extra advantage over and above our domestic investors, because otherwise you are going to then kill your own investors and then promote foreign investors. So what we've done is, in fact, we prioritize what we call removing tax disincentives. So we have a lot of disincentives. If you remove disincentive, you're not disadvantaging anybody. And some of those disincentives is you bring money to Nigeria, there are even a lot of paperwork that you have to go through. Certificate of capital importation, you buy assets, you have to do certificate of asset acceptance. You bring in technology, you go to NOTAP office. And when you are done with all of that, you have to deal with registration here and there, all manner of taxes that you have to pay. Sometimes you're not even sure you can take your money out of the country. Sometimes you need to pay some taxes and levies. You have to pay them in dollars, right? All of these impediments are things we've proposed in those bills to remove them. And by removing that, you can actually say that when we remove this incentive, it's an incentive to investment. So we believe that the FDIs, which we are beginning to see the sign, we've been discussing with these investors and they're very excited. They can't wait for the bills to be signed, because that for them will be the certainty that they're waiting for to begin to invest more. Then the other point to raise was to do with diaspora Nigerians. What do we have for them? Because I made the point before that there's something in those reforms for everyone. And the answer is yes, even for Nigerians in the diaspora, we know that they send us money, right? They help pay rent, school fees for their family and all of that. And those things also add to the inflow of FX that help us to stabilize the Naira. Plus, if not for even if they don't send us any money at all, they are still Nigerians. And therefore, their consideration and views are important to us. In one of the engagements we had while we were drafting the bills, we actually had something also for Nigerians in the diaspora, but under the reforms, just to be specific. So we know that Nigerians in the diaspora want to invest in Nigeria, either they are buying properties or they want to invest in the capital market or they want to invest in fixed income investments, including maybe even Euro bond of Nigeria or Naira investment like government bond, or they want to set up a business, that they can do maybe in partnership with other people that are physically here present, or they want to be able to do it virtually. Each and every one of these things I mentioned, you will see in the tax reform bills that these are being taken care of. We've removed a lot of taxes on real property because we think that it needs to be affordable and we need to promote activity in that space. It's one of the most labor-intensive activities in the world. So if you allow that activity to thrive, it just creates more prosperity for more people, right? And it's simple. What we need to do is all within our control. We don't need the help of anybody to open up that space. And if you invest in the capital market, we also have a threshold within which you don't pay taxes. The reason is because we want our capital market to be one of the best in the world and clearly the best in Africa. Today, South Africa's capital market is worth more than $1 trillion. Nigeria's capital market is not even up to $50 billion. So we think we are at the infancy stage in terms of the depth and size. And this is not the time to tax everything that moves in the capital market, because a thriving capital market provides the opportunity to fund further growth and development, both for public sector and private sector. So we believe that Nigerians in the diaspora, like now what Trump is doing in the US and the impact on on the stock market in the US. This is the time to send the money back home and invest in the Nigerian capital market, where the naira is stable, and then the capital market is doing well, and then you get a lot of tax exemption in the process. Of course, if you want to set up a business, we also have the business environment improving, as well as tax system improving for those investments across all sectors. So the Nigerians who live abroad and work abroad have a lot in the reforms to make it attractive for them to look even more into investing into Nigeria. Lawal said, in terms of implementation, orientation, and the time frame, what are we going to do differently? So I'll start by saying that Mr. President himself has set up this committee differently. And I really hope that this is a model that not only Nigeria can continue to learn from, but other countries can also borrow a leaf from how Mr. President has set up a committee. And what's different? Committees are normally set up to brainstorm, make recommendations, write reports, present it, and take photos, and they are done. Mr. President said, I'm not looking for photos and reports. You will stay here and help me to implement. And you see the way it's playing now. Just imagine that we have submitted a report that says government should write tax bills, and they have disbanded our committee. Who will be doing all those explaining that we're doing, you know? So the implementation is part and parcel of our mandates. And in addition to that, we want to institutionalize these reforms so that when that committee is no longer there, when Mr. President is done with his first term and second term, you know, because you'll not be there forever, you know, whatever it is, that these reforms are enduring. So to that extent, we are working with various institutions, from the Joint Revenue Board that is going to be established under the bills, to Fiscal Responsibility Commission, to the Federal Inland Revenue Service, to the Ministry of Finance. And we are building those frameworks to ensure that this implementation is not only very well implemented effectively, but that they are sustained over time. We're doing a lot of orientation now. In fact, yesterday we're still looking at some curriculum that we are developing to train professionals, to train tax officers. We want to train taxpayers and also train the general public. Even those of us on the committee, we are training every single day, because it's going to be a totally new dispensation that transforms the system. And therefore, all of us will have a lot to learn. So that process has started. One of the opportunities and the good side of the debate and controversy that the bills generated was that it raised the level of tax awareness in Nigeria more than any time since I was in my adult age. I have never seen any time in Nigeria. It could have happened before I was born, but there has never been any time in my adult life in Nigeria that there was so much focus on tax matters. That in itself is priceless, you know, and that's why for us, we see things from the positive side. That means now that today, when we say that we want to discuss issues of taxation affecting small businesses, we have more responses than before, you know, so that's helping us with the orientation and the awareness. We're also connecting with groups and associations. In fact, we have a program, I think it's next week, with small businesses, SMEDAN and NASME. So whatever we have in those communications, they then communicate also to their people. We're planning on translating the tax laws when they're enacted into Pidgin English, Yoruba, Hausa, and Igbo. We're planning to have it in audio format so that if you cannot read and write, you can interact with the tax law and it can speak to you, right? So we are really trying to make sure that we do not leave anyone behind. For people with disability, we're developing the system to enable people with visual impairment to be able to interact with it, and so on and so forth. So those efforts are ongoing. We also invite all Nigerians to help us as well. It's not something that the committee can do, or the Joint Revenue Board can do, or the federal government can do alone. It's all of us that we have to do this sensitization, orientation, and implementation together. Then the last one from Omololu, I believe is the name, was that some multinationals are leaving Nigeria, and that's impacting on unemployment. And so what are we doing to mitigate youth unemployment? So, this narrative about companies are leaving Nigeria, for us, we view it differently. And we actually engage with many of, some of these companies that were exiting Nigeria to know why they were leaving. And they gave us the reasons. Some of the reasons included tax. Some of it was to do with FX. Some of it was to purely do with their business strategy. They just changed their strategy globally, and it was nothing to do with Nigeria. Also bear in mind that for many of those businesses, it was the investor that changed hands, right? So you sold to another investor. It's not like the investment left Nigeria. So they see P&G, yeah, sold, so it's not like the product are no longer here. Diageo, they sold Guinness, but there's still Guinness in Nigeria. So it was just, and these things are normal. If you see the reports in the US, the number of companies that closed down in the US in a month is more than the number of companies that closed down in Nigeria in 5 years. But what the US has been able to do is, as these thousands of businesses are closing down, the environment enables more than those numbers to open up. Because some companies they just can't survive because the environment is not conducive. Sometimes because innovation has gone ahead of them. What we want in Nigeria is that on a net basis that we are growing. And so we are very mindful of all investment, whether they are foreign investment or domestic investment. We want to keep everybody in this country and make them successful and employ our people. But we also are very realistic that that is not something that will happen 100%. It's never happened in the life of any country that all companies will continue to operate in their original form. So we have a lot of provisions in the reforms to create employment opportunity for the youth, including employment within the digital space. We also have provisions that would provide incentive for employers for employing more people. It's also in those tax bills. And of course, we also have provisions in those bills that now incentivize entrepreneurship, because before it was as if we didn't like people to start their own businesses. So you see in those tax reform that entrepreneurship is now well rewarded and incentivized, so that even if you don't want to look for a job, you can be the one that is creating jobs. Overall, there's a lot in it for youth employment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I'll give back to the chief host, please. Mr. J.K. Adebola, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you so very much, Honorable Taiwo, and thank you to our special guest as well. Well, I need to read this one now because I've just been passed a note now that the chief of staff to the president, the Right Honorable Fengbeda Mila, sent a note thanking our special guest for a wonderful job that he's doing. So I just thought I should pass that on to you, sir. He says, thank you so very much. He's enjoying the presentation so far. And again, I've just been reliably informed now that we have the senior counsel to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Honorable Babatunde Ogala, in the house. Again, he is being our grand patron. I think it's only fair that I yield the floor for him, maybe for him to speak to our special guest and to speak to Nigerians globally, like he does every time, because every time he is on our program, we are always elated to have him. So can we please unmute Honorable Ogala, please?
Thank you very much, my brother, my friend, my colleague, JK. Thank you for doing the good job you've been doing and you keep doing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you to all our participants. And I must also say a special thank you to our special guest today. I have followed the tax reform bill closely. Today, I must say, as much as I thought I knew, I have been further educated on what the tax bill is all about. No doubt well-intentioned, no doubt people-oriented, no doubt more above all, there's no doubt that this tax reform bill, it's largely for the benefit of the average Nigerian, from what I have listened to thus far. Mr. Oyedele, thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for having come this far. We just need more and more education for Nigerians. Because I must say here that I've even had cause to engage some governors, if I will say that, who were somehow, I think, largely, I don't want to use the word, so let me not use the word that comes to mind, who were not well informed. There were a lot of emotional reaction and sometimes also political to this tax reform bill. Only a couple of days ago, I even was in a discussion with some persons that I thought should know, and I was amazed as to their understanding. In fact, somebody did say to me a couple of days ago, somebody who is high up there in the manufacturing industry, a business leader in the country. And he said to me, please help us appeal to the president to drop this bill. And the question I then asked him is, how much work have you even done to appreciate what this bill is about? There's no doubt I know change is something that in every climb and even in our day-to-day life, and from time immemorial, had always been resisted, especially when the changes are rather radical, like in the instant case. Mr. Oyedele, you have done well. I must say, you have done well. You have been steadfast. You have brought a revolution into tax administration in this country with this bill, which I must also note is about coming into bringing our tax administration system or tax system to conform with global best practices. So, Mr. Oyedele, thank you for doing what you are doing. Thank you for doing what you are doing for not just for the president, but for Nigerians. However, like I said, we still need to do a lot more about educating Nigerians. Even me, it took me a lot of time to be educated, notwithstanding the fact that I am a lawyer, I am a senior advocate, I am otherwise supposed to be one of those who ought to be informed and inform others. But as it were, we too were not well informed. So please continue with the education you are doing. Don't relent. No doubt, I mean, I'm not unconscious of the fact that there will be concessions here and there. And I recall I did hear the president once speak on it and said, I think it was during his presidential media chat in December, where he said, we shall continue to engage. You too should please continue to engage. For the Renewed Hope team, what do I say to you? Like I've always said, thank you for doing what you do. I think I did mention this to Adeomole sometime back, I think about 2 weeks ago. I was privileged to be with the president, and we spoke about what you are doing here. We spoke about it. I only just wished that one was with him at a time like this, to just bring him in to say a few words. And he has promised that as time goes on, he will certainly be part of this program one day. Anytime I have the opportunity, I have reminded him, and I will continue to remind him. He is conscious of what you do. That I must let you know. He is conscious of the fact that you are engaging his officials, you are engaging his appointees. He is very well conscious of that. And again, after today, I can tell you again, I will again pump it into his ears that we just had yet another session, and his what do I call? Do I call him this tax consultant or our our tax guru? Oyedele was here again today because he's been conscious of quite a number of his officials that have been here, and we hope, and hopefully one day he too will participate. And like you just noted a couple of minutes ago, the chief of staff just sent a note. In sending a note, presupposes that at some point he has also logged in. So with people like that, I'm sure he is also passing the message on to the president. At least we've had the SGF, some of the highest ranking officials, and before long, I can assure you, we shall have the vice president and have the president also come on board one of these days. So once again, I thank you for what you do. I thank those in diaspora for the faith they have kept with the government of Asiwaju Bola Tinubu and indeed the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's not easy for people who are out there who are not directly impacted. Yes, I know you've been directly impacted to show as much faith as you have done. I think I saw Auntie Fatai Mary Williams a couple of minutes ago on when I was looking through the participants. Auntie, thank you also for coming on. Renew Hope team, thank you. Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, thank you very much. God bless us all. Certainly, this country shall rise again. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, sir. Indeed, like you closed, indeed, this country shall rise again. And that's our prayer every day. The day that the president or the vice president appears on this program, I think that will be the day that Nigerians across the world will dove their hearts to this administration for what we've always been saying, that this is perhaps the most receptive administration that we've ever had from time immemorial. Thank you so very much, sir. We always appreciate your presence here. Thank you so very much. Again, time has done its worst again. Like I said, we always try to keep to 2 hours. Don't forget, like I've always been saying, our special guests are people who are very, very busy. And it takes a lot for us to get them to come here and sit with us for 2 hours and to talk to us and to answer our questions. I've still got a lot of hands up, but we have only 3 minutes to go now. So I will only call 2 of the hands up now. And I wish to apologize to the other hands that I will not be able to call. Please, your questions you can put them on the chat room with your with your details, however you want to get your response, either your telephone number or your email address, so that we'll pass it on to our special guest and who will then respond to you, because we don't want to belabor our special guest. So he has other programs that he has to attend to. So I'll be calling the next two participants now. Mary Fatai Williams will be next. Then Latifat Olagoke will come after that. So the rest, please, my apologies, we won't be able to call you, but it's like I said, you have the opportunity to put your questions on the chat room. We'll forward it to the special guest and who will then respond to you. So now, Mary Fatai Williams, you have the floor now, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Oyedele, for a job that you're doing that is so well done. I will just go quickly because there's no time to ask the few questions I have. So this meeting was titled Reform 101, etc. Very fantastic theme title. So I was expecting a bit more of a brief on the theme as a whole, just to bring me up to speed so that I can do a trickle down to other people. So I hope you will oblige and do that, even though I've gleaned a lot so far from what has been discussed. Another important point for me is implicit tax. This is really, really, really very important and critical to Nigerians. You touched on it briefly, but maybe you could expatiate further on how you are tackling it so that Nigerians can learn how to pay. You'll be happy to pay tax or pay tax happily. Regarding women, I would like you to tell me what it is that is innate for women, especially working women. I remember in my heyday when I was working, I paid the highest band of payee tax. I didn't have any relief for husband, couldn't claim for children, couldn't claim for parents, couldn't claim for aged, anything. So I was paying everything. The men were getting for parents, for this, for that, for the other. How has this been taken care of? And of course, the market women, the poorest of the poor people, that we women fall in the bracket of the poorest of the poor, and we have no social safety net. What is in it in the tax for us? Bearing in mind that even VAT and food and beverage tax also takes a lot from us as women and mothers. And finally, has your committee taken into consideration the taxation of the richest in Nigeria? That is the 1 or 2% of Nigerians who indeed are so rich that some of them could be richer than a state government budget put together. Other countries in the first world do tax their richest of the rich. Thank you, Mr. Oyedele, and thank you very much for what you're doing, and congratulations once more. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Ma, for making that so swift. Let's quickly go to Latifat Olagoke. Latifat Olagoke, you'll be our last question, participant to ask question today. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so very much, sir, and to Honorable Taiwo Oyedele. This has been really inspiring. I'm from Ireland, Republic of Ireland, just next to United Kingdom. It is very important, and I think Honorable Taiwo have already mentioned the purpose, which is growth. And one of the reasons why I'm asking this question is about property tax that was sampled in Canada. We have to understand that, and I'm glad about the response of Honorable Taiwo, because some incentives can give, because some empty property that left there might be from diaspora like us. Some incentives might be given to property owners to have people rent that space, so that the whole property is not empty. So just instead of taxing them, because I'm sure when you buy property in Nigeria, the real estate consultants are already charging you a lot to fix the estate. So if you're having additional, it's deterring diaspora from wanting to invest back home. So it's just a quick one is, we have social welfare system here. Had the tax system, I know the poor are not being taxed, but the like of female breadwinners, single mother, widows, and retired people, what are some things, even maybe if not for now, for future amendment of this proposed tax that will be put in place for vulnerable people? Thank you.
Thank you so very much for making it so very concise, and I'll yield the floor now to our special guest to respond to those questions. Thank you.
Yes, those are great questions. Thanks a lot for asking them. So the first one is about a brief about the theme of these sessions today. I think the question and answer one, I actually find it quite interesting myself, because sometimes we are just repeating stuff. This is in section this. What I can promise is to share materials, including recorded ones that can give you an overview. I think I really enjoyed the way this was dedicated to just asking and clarifying questions. So apologies if we didn't do more than that at the beginning. So your point on implicit tax is spot on, because we think at the end of the day, if I'm spending my money to take care of what government should be taking care of for me, I'll be reluctant to pay taxes to the government, because it feels like double tax, right? So one of the things we've been saying to our policymakers all the way from, Mr. President himself to governors to local government, chairman, is that if we don't address implicit tax, it will be impossible to collect the formal taxes. And even there's the informal taxes that are collected by non-state actors. When non-state actors collect taxes from you, your chances of getting fiscal exchange, that is taxpayers' benefit, is zero, because they're not going to build roads. So we are addressing that, and we're getting the cooperation and the support from our policymakers and bosses as much as possible. The other question is to do with property tax and what we're trying to do in that. And I do agree with you for us, and that's why we keep reminding ourselves that this reform is not about finding revenue by all means in the immediate term. We are prioritizing data. Like, if we have data about property in Nigeria, you know the ones are empty and why they are empty. Because even me too, I have the experience of, I have one small property for 3 years. I couldn't find a tenant. Somebody came, the person did not pay. We had to fight to get him out of the place. Imagine taxing me on that, right? Would I want to do property next time? So Yeah, so what we are doing is prioritizing data for planning. So when you have proper data, you can make the right policy choices and decisions. So we're working with the state, like I said. So that's why you're not finding these bills, introduction of taxes on property and all of that, because we think that would be jumping the gun. We shouldn't place the cart before the horse. Then the last one is you raise the issue around women. Okay, there's also another one around welfare. So you said for women, anything in it for them, particularly working women. So what we've done is the data we got shows to us that, for example, we have more women, and you'll be amazed at this data. We have more women even doing exports than men. And many of these women are being taken advantage of, even though we have the African Continental Free Trade Area. We have a lot of women doing small businesses, having to deal with multiple taxes. We have a lot of women that are low-income earners and having to pay personal income tax. So what we've done is to address these issues in a systemic manner, without necessarily mentioning women. So what you will find in the bills that you can associate with women would be exemptions on sanitary items, baby products and all of that. But we're confident that we've taken into consideration the issues that affect women, and those issues have now been addressed, or at least been addressed in the reforms. And of course, we remain open to further engagement, because one of the things we want to do with our reforms is, as we are implementing these reforms and closing down the work of my committee, we're going to have a comprehensive report that will give to Mr. President that shows what has been done and completed, what is still ongoing, and issues for future consideration. So even when we have new information, we would also still tell Mr. President that these are areas for future consideration. And in terms of social welfare, finally, taxing the richest people. So we think that the most effective way to administer welfare in our own context is first to exempt the poorest people, right? And then two, to provide opportunities. And those things have been covered sufficiently in those bills. Of course, we don't have sufficient data as of yet to be able to administer social welfare like they do in other countries. What we do now is conditional cash transfer, which is not as effective as it should. Taxing the richest people, we have provisions in the bills to increase the taxes on the richest people to up to 25%. It used to be currently under 19%. I know 25% is less than what you have in the UK, US, Canada, or even South Africa and Kenya. But for us, we also think that it's a gradual journey. We don't want to make it look like it's a crime to be rich in Nigeria. So just get them to pay the right amount of taxes first. Let them not abuse waivers and tax breaks. And then we take it forward from there and one step at a time. So at the appropriate time, if it becomes necessary, I will certainly be in support of a higher rate for richest people. But for now, let them pay the 25% that we have in those bills. Thank you very much.
What can I say? Thank you ever so much, sir, for being here, first of all, and for fielding all questions from participants. And I believe that not just me and not just my team, but Nigerians across the world have been well enlightened. I think our grand patron said it earlier on that he got more from this from this conference now regarding the tax bill. So for that, I think we remain very, very grateful to you for honoring our invitation and for staying for the whole 2 hours. Again, like other leaders that we've had, you came before the program started. That has been the hallmark of every VVIP that we have invited, which again speaks a lot about the kind of leadership traits that we have in the country at the moment now. So for that, thank you so very much. We are closing the whole conference now because it's been 9 minutes past the 2 hours that we told you. So I don't know, maybe you still have maybe one or two things that you would like to say as your last mic to us before we finally draw the curtain, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I think it's to actually appreciate you in particular because I know that it took a while for us to be able to make this happen. And I know that I'm always being pulled from different angles, but attending this meeting today, I'm so grateful to you for what you do and your team. So thank you very much, sir, for doing all of that for us and for our country. And to also appreciate the Grand Patron, I'm so grateful for those words of encouragement. And of course, to my big brother, the Right Honorable Chief of Staff, I'm so grateful for those words of appreciation and feedback. We do not take those things for granted. We continue to be grateful for the opportunity to serve our country in this little way that has been provided to us by Mr. President. And I'll continue to say that the most credit for these reforms must go to Mr. President. And I'm not the person who praises people, right? And I can tell you that if it was a different president, these reforms would have been dead. At the height of it, the things I saw, many of them I cannot say now. There were politicians who called me and said, do we really expect them to support Mr. President because this reform will make him do well and therefore their chances of coming to power will be reduced? And I was amazed. And I said to them, if you are hoping that your president will fail because you want to come into power, it's like taking poison and hope that it kills your enemy. Who does that? But of course, I can't say those things out. But in all of this, even when it was very high political risk, there were governors who said to me they will leave the party. And I said, don't do it because of our tax reform. And Mr. President said, don't worry, Taiwo, we will get these things done. Reforms are hard. That level of leadership is uncommon. And I'll continue to be grateful to Mr. President for the opportunity. And it's not about me. I have more than 100 members. I'm just the person that is taking the glory everywhere. So thank you very much. And thank you to everyone that joined us. God bless Nigeria. I had the presentation early in the year when I said, let us say that Nigeria will work for us and that may Nigeria win. Now I'm changing that to say that Nigeria is winning and may Nigeria continue to win. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. So what a way to end the conference. Thank you so very much. I think the appreciation is more from us to you than the other way around, because I know how it takes a lot to get any of you leaders to sit with us, to sit anywhere for 2 hours. More or less on a conference like this. So for you taking the time, to come and sit with us for 2 hours, I think it takes a lot. And for that, we remain eternally grateful. Thank you so very much. For the things you were saying, I think Nigerians across the globe saw the heat that you and the president were on when it was first introduced to the House. You see, which again fit into what we have been telling Nigerians all along, that the reforms that this government is bringing on now, even though people are crying that it is bringing some hardship, but as far as we are concerned at the Renewed Hope Global here, is that we believe that this is perhaps the most, I think you said it, you used the word daring president that we've ever had in this country, who is ready to do the needful to get the country to where the country needs to be. And I said, we've had leaders in the past who should have done what this government is doing now, decades ago, when the stakes were not as high as it is now. But for this president, they decided not to do it because they were afraid of the blowback that you guys are getting now. So for the president now to say, you know what, I want to leave a legacy. I'll have to do the right thing, even if it brings discomfort temporarily. And I think that is why we have always been advocating in Nigeria that we need to be patient, we need to be perseverant, and we need to continue to pray for this government, because we know that after all of this, comes joy. I think the Yorubas have a proverb. They say, "Titari rola kola." When the tribal mark in the Yoruba, whatever, that when they are doing it is very painful. But when the whole thing is done, the person will be you go the buga, So that is what the country is going through now. And thank God that what you guys are doing is now beginning to yield positive results now. I think a lot of people can see now that what we have been telling them all along, to be patient, is now beginning to yield the results. So for that, we remain eternally grateful to you, and to the president for not relenting, because for the kind of pressure that you guys had when this bill came out, another lily-livered president would have said, you know what, I don't deserve all of this. But for him to have stuck to his guns and for this now to be seen the light of the day now, I think posterity will judge him well. That's all I'm just going to say. Posterity will judge him well. So for that, thank you so very much. Before I go, let me just, there are so many takeaways, but I'm just going to touch on a couple of them. One of the takeaways is that the tax reform 2024 is meant to take care of every segment of the country, and the tax bill is people-oriented. And you told us that the president said to you emphatically that he is willing to negotiate the content of the reform, but he's not willing to negotiate the intent of it, which says a lot again about a man with a strong will to ensure that the country gets to the El Dorado that we all dream about. So for that, I've always said it that he's the man that I think he was born for this moment, and he has shown it since he assumed the presidency. And my prayer and the prayer of most Nigerians are with him. He will succeed. And just like you said, Nigeria is winning now. So the only way is up as far as we're concerned. There's still many more takeaways, but I'm going to talk about that in my thank you letter to the people tomorrow. So once again, sir, thank you ever so much, and please give our regards to your family, because it's been a very tough 2 hours 15 minutes that you've been with us. So for your patience and for taking up for answering every question, I say thank you ever so much. And we might come again, sir. I'm just going to warn you, we might come and knock on your door again.
No problem.
Because sometimes, thank you so much. Because sometimes our people come back, they give us feedback that they would like to see so and so, to come back again. So it is on that note that I'm saying thank you ever so much, and we will be closing now. So let me just call Haji Are Kiabele Abakar to give us a closing remark.
Thank you, our chief host. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of another exciting event. Many thanks to our special guest, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, Chairman, Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee, for coming to enlighten us on the remarkable work of your committee. As always, thank you to our participants who joined us from across the world. Join us again next time when we bring you another exciting event. On behalf of our Renewed Hope Global Virtual Town Hall Conference team, have a great weekend. God bless Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Haji. I think on that note, we are drawing the curtain. But before that, let me just say a big thank you again to our VVIP, because every week in, week out, they come to support us and to support our special guest, the Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, the Chief of Staff to the President. Thank you so very much. And for sending that short note to our special guest, I think it says a lot about you guys at the top. Thank you ever so much. Alhaji Abdulaziz, Director of Protocol, thank you very much. Mr. Bayo Ononuga, the Chief Spokesperson to the President, thank you so very much. And our grand patron as well, Honorable Watunde Ogala, SAN, thank you so very much. And for the presidential officials watching us at the Villa conference room, we say thank you ever so much, and God bless you. Thank you so much. We'll be back again next week. In the next couple of days, the details of our next VVIP will be posted. Please, as soon as you get it, please help us to share it so that more people will be able to join and enjoy like you and me have enjoyed listening to our special guest for today. Thank you ever so much. Thank you, and God bless you.